to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I've read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She's a narcissist abuse survival expert, psychotherapist, life coach, wellness influencer, as well as a debut author and the author of the book Narcissist Abuse Survivor Workbook 25 Ways, none other than Miss Gina Geller.
Hi, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
Welcome, Miss Gina, on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I
Sure.
mess?
I am a psychotherapist and life coach. I've been in private practice for over 25 years. And I started writing self help books about 15 years ago. My first one was The Woman's Divorce and Dating Survival Guide. And my current one, which I am promoting, is the 25 Ways Narcissist Abuse Survival Workbook. Um, I do a lot of self help videos on Instagram and Facebook that also merge with some sort of entertaining videos because I've
Mm-hmm.
also been in the entertainment industry and like I like comedy. And part of the survival is actually thriving through being happy. It's not about talking about narcissists all the time. It's about
Yes,
living your life afterwards.
definitely. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Miss Gina, thank you. Beyond the clinical definition, what are the most common early subtle red flags of a narcissistic behavior that people often dismiss or explain away?
Great question, Daniel. I would like to preface it by saying many times we don't realize we are in a relationship with a narcissist until we've exited the relationship. Um, Mainly because of number one, love bombing. Some
Mm-hmm.
of you are familiar with that term. They
Yes.
pour it on strong in the beginning. They move fast. They're super complimentary, very intense and passionate. They often are super highly sexually charged. And so you put that all together and it makes this love imprint. That's the love bomb. You think they adore you, they're so into you, they understand you, they think that you two have so much in common, they share interests. And by the way, you'll learn down the line those weren't shared interests, they were them pretending. And then they also hijack your interests. That's down the line. But love bombing, number one is to know how to recognize you're being love bombed and not falling for their manipulations. Love bombing is the ultimate form of love manipulation.
Many of people in these relationships feel a constant sense of walking on eggshells. What is the narcissist typical doing or not doing to create this pervasive atmosphere of anxiety?
So, to circle back to your first question, it actually adds on to what you're just saying is that after the love bombing, you're smitten, right? You've fallen for them, you're in love.
Mhm.
Um, they don't immediately have you walking on eggshells. It's a very slow and gradual process, and it's I would say it's like the second phase of realizing you're with a narcissist is that you begin sensing this anxiety because you did something to upset them. You start seeing these little cracks in their mask. Narcissists wear these masks, right, uh, to fit in with the world. But once they become more connected and intimate with you, they lower their guard. And whereas for regular people, lowering your guard means you connect more deeply in a fulfilling, loving way. With a narcissist, lowering their guard means now you get to see all their darkness. They are going to get angry really quickly. And you will feel like the rug is pulled out from under you. I can give you examples if you like, but
Go
the
ahead.
Okay, I will, I'll share a
Mhm,
good personal example. Um, Probably about, gosh, it was like, and this was like 4 months into the relationship. That's when they start showing their true colors. You don't know until about 3 or 4 months in.
mhm,
Living in the same town. If you live across the country or something, they can hold on to pretending for a longer time, obviously, because you don't see them all the time, so they can control their intensity. And narcissists will even tell you, because I used to work actually also with narcissists, they will tell you that there's a period of time where they no longer can control their impulsive rage. And they know they're acting. They know they're putting on this show. So
mm,
back to the eggshells. Um, it was at the time dating someone for 4 months. It was his birthday, and I had treated him to some concert, taken him to a nice dinner. Um, the concert was the next day. The fancy dinner was the night before his birthday. And we come home after the birthday, and I see him on his phone, super intense and laughing, like, "Oh, what's so funny?" And I wasn't being at all intrusive, like paranoid. I just was naturally asking, "Oh, what happened? What's funny?" Like, I want to laugh. And he hides his phone, that's gaslighting.
mhm,
When you're intimate, you had this great intimate night, and then suddenly they go cold and distant. They act like you're not there, and they act like you're being you're being crazy or paranoid or delusional. And of course, he was texting another woman and making plans with her after I just took him to a fancy dinner. And so that's the rug getting put. What happened then was he stormed out, called me, whatever, and didn't call me for a week. We didn't talk, and the whole time I had this tremendous anxiety of like, what did I do wrong? How did this even happen? I don't understand. And I had spent, like $500 on concert tickets. He didn't want to go to the concert. He said, don't, he just texted, find someone else to go with. And it was an artist I could care less about. It was for him, right?
mhm.
So I had to, they couldn't sell the tickets because it was too last minute. Anyway, you lose. It's like the gaslighting starts after 3 or 4 months. You lose your sense of stability in the relationship. You feel like this anxiety of the connection. Something happened. You did something wrong.
Did something wrong that you feel guilty, even it's
Yes.
not.
You saw what you saw. You heard what you heard, and have you
Mhm,
questioning. That's what gaslighting is. You're questioning your reality.
mhm. So, Miss Gina, what does a lack of a genuine empathy look like in an everyday situation? Is it failure to understand feelings or it's a refusal to validate them?
I think it's both. I mean, there's research. Okay, so we're going to get into something else here when you ask that question. Um, I don't know any narcissist that doesn't have some degree of psychopathology. Um, and my theory is there's a continuum of psychopathic behavior for all narcissists. Um, some less psychopathic ones, they you could actually probably stay with. They just have glimmers. You might see like uh, the stereotypical like successful surgeon or lawyer, and they are doing good, right? They're
Mm,
saving lives or protecting people, but they also lack this empathy. But they're not necessarily doing it consciously. The more psychopathic ones, they smile when they see you suffer, and so meaning they don't reciprocate the love, and they see you kind of squirming, and they smile about it, or they do something hurtful and it makes them happy, or they gaslight you and they're laughing about it because you're reacting. That's lack of empathy, a lack of compassion. um, and I mean, that manifests in so many ways, whether you have a flat tire. I made a video fairly recently about, it's interesting how you can get more help and compassion from a stranger on a street when you have a flat tire than you can from your narcissist romantic partner. They will not show up for you. They will make you take care of it yourself. and they will shame you for not getting your tire pressure checked. That's a narcissist.
Miss Gina, the dynamic and the impact on you. In healthy relationship, conflicts are resolved. In a narcissistic relationship, how do arguments typically unfold, and why do often feel so circular and unresolved?
Okay, that is a complex question, Daniel. Try to answer it in a succinct manner. The cycle of abuse with a narcissist is mostly the emotional cycle of abuse, which has to do with arguments. Um, there is no way to not be in an argument with a narcissist because they are always offended when you ask for something or when you set a boundary, which is sometimes asking for something. For example, these very simple, everyday to day conversations turn into arguments. I mean, every single one of them. For example, this same wonderful guy that I was dating, it was Christmas time. Uh, I'd always gotten a tree. I had a convertible. I still have, and I would put it in the back. Just I'm pretty like easygoing, have fun, go get the tree. It's a fun thing. And he says, "No, we'll take my SUV." Blah blah blah. It comes time to go get the tree. It's supposed to be fun and light, right? Turns into
Mhm.
this big ordeal. He's in his pajamas, and like I thought we were going to get the tree, and he starts, stomping around, throwing things. Like, what is going on? Like, and I'm just at, you're always walking on eggshells, as we discussed. You're speaking nicely. You're not being in any way offensive. Throwing things around. Won't talk. Slams the door. Goes into the car. I'm crying on the way to get the tree. Instead of being happy, there's this cold silence, right? And you go to get the tree. He is smiling and charming to the tree helpers. I'm there picking it out by myself while he's sitting in the car. I go get the car. The tree helper, a stranger, puts the tree on the car. He steps out and looks at me and orders me to tip the man. Of course, already had cash in my hand to tip, and wouldn't talk to me the whole way home.
Mhm.
And I had no idea what was wrong. So a lot of the arguments aren't necessarily they're not sometimes they're not many times they're not actually arguments. It's withholding and not talking and being passive aggressive. So did I answer your question?
Indeed. Indeed, Miss Gina. And what is narcissistic supply, and how does the partner become the primary source of it? What happens when the partner stop providing that supply?
Ooh, there's so it's what happens and when it happens, right?
Yes.
um what happens is that narcissist gets bored because it gets bored, and they obviously, well, I should say obviously, if narcissists all have a major fear of abandonment, they're so insecure, even though they're very grandiose and they act super confident and charming and can be life of the party. um, they're very insecure. So they when you start confronting them. And when I say confront, I'm not saying argue. They think any boundary is a threat to their security. So if you say, "Hey, we agreed that you're going to mow the lawn Saturday mornings. It's been 2 Saturday mornings and the homeowners association is complaining that the yard is overgrown."
Mm-hmm.
They will take that as a personal offense. When they were being passive aggressive to punish you, it never ends, right? So anyway, they're doing all these sorts of things, like passive aggressive things. And when you see them doing that, you know that you are fallen off the pedestal. You are off the pedestal, and they need to put someone else up there. They need to glorify someone else because that's just how they operate. They have to, because they get their worth from this glamorized, intense attraction to someone new. So, and it never ends. I swear it never ends. Even when they're like 80 years old, they're still doing this. Anyway, so you're sleeping in bed next to them while they're cold toward you, um, no matter what you do, and they're texting someone else. At least at the very minimum, within first 6 months of the relationship, they are um, emotionally having affairs with other people. They will actually maybe in the 3 or 4 months, once you fall off the pedestal, whatever time frame that is, they will start texting another person for new feed, new supply. They generally have at least two or three going at any time. I don't know how they do it. Like I don't know who has the bandwidth to keep communicating with all of these people and faking relationships, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
faking. Um, but so yes, they will get their supply emotionally first. They don't all physically cheat. I don't know the stats on how many of them do, but I do know this. They're good at being super secretive and sneaky about it. You would not know. You might not know unless you surprise them coming home early from work, right? And you see someone scurrying out the door. They will act like nothing happened. They can just because they don't have it's like they're always acting, right? So they can
Mm.
put on this, okay, now I'm going to act like I'm in an exclusive relationship even though I just had somebody in our home 2 minutes before you walked in the door. So that's how it goes. They need the constant romantic attention, validation, um, and then they can withhold from you, right? Because they don't need to connect with you because now they're connected with this person. So you get to get punished even more.
So, Miss Gina, is it part of their DNA being a narcissistic?
So I'm sure you're aware of this nature nurture theory that we all, hear about. Here's what I know, and I said I've done this for over 25 years. Um, Back in grad school, it was considered to be purely environmental. And then maybe 10 years ago, the whole psychological community started saying, oh, it's purely biological. Now, unless you can do a brain scan on a baby, which someday I think pretty soon they probably will be able to do this to see is that baby a narcissist, right? Can you imagine being raised by, I mean, we many of us can, being raised by a narcissistic parent is going to influence, it traumatizes your brain. So therefore that trauma is always going to be there. So how can you say it's purely genetic if okay, say it's genetic. What influence does it have having a narcissist parent, right? How
Hmm.
they treat their children. That's a whole other topic. Then the parental narcissist abuse, we could do a whole other segment on that. It's similar but very different, right, than romantic narcissist abuse. But anyway, it's well, I hope I answered your question. Now I could go
Yes,
down a rabbit hole on this topic.
definitely, definitely, Miss Gina. And what is hovering? And why is it so effective at pulling a person back into a relationship even after they've seen the toxic patterns?
Oh, hoovering and breadcrumbing, right?
Mm.
You're it's like you're starving, you miss them, you miss the attention and affection. And say a great example of hoovering would be you haven't seen this person, you broke up, you knew they were a jerk, maybe you even knew they were a narcissist, and around Christmas time they send happy holidays, I've been thinking of you, um, hope you're doing well. They're trying to see if they can get more supply, right? They're casting out the line to see who bites. You're not the only one they're doing that to. They're sending out probably 25 of those just to
Hmm.
just keep their people lined up, right? The people for supply. So, and it's very tempting. We fall for it because you miss. the longer you're away from the narcissist, the more you forget about the bad times, because that's the way humans are designed, especially women. I mean, would we keep having children if we didn't forget about how painful it was to deliver them? It really is some sort of wiring we have to forget how bad things were, especially when it's with someone you quote loved. So it's the bad stuff goes away. Plus, to survive in those situations, you have to make the most of it. Kind of like you get to go to the library while you're in prison, so you're only remembering about going to the library versus, oh, you were in prison and you had to sleep on the hard mattress and you had, you know, fights in the hall every day or whatever. It's just you forget about how bad it was. So the hoovering, the longer you're away from the narcissist, the more susceptible you are to hoovering if you haven't done the work.
Miss Gina, as a narcissist abuse survival expert, psychotherapist, life coach, wellness and influencer, as well as an author, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Well, believe it or not, I've been talking about these narcissists for 6 years, for 5 or 6 years, just trying to help promote my book. So my goal is to get this book. My short term goal is to get this book out into the world more, because there are exercises, journaling exercises, reflections on each of these areas of life, from friendships to finance to career, how they affected you, and then everyone needs to understand. So my short term goal is that people can understand how easy it can be to organize the trauma. We have to reprogram those neural pathways. A lot of this is very scientific, actually. You have to reprogram the neural pathways that had trauma, and replace it with the affirmations, clear it out. It's like you're scraping out a wound, right? You're saying, okay, wait, this happened. Oh yeah, I don't have to keep going through that pathway of remembering what happened. Like I've organized it so you can completely excavate the site, replace it daily with these affirmations of, for example, I understand reality. I know what's going on around me. I can trust my intuition. I will not tolerate being having my intuition being discarded and uh, well, being dissed. Your
Mm-hmm.
intuition is always valid. So, anyways, that's my short term goal. My long term goal actually has little to do with narcissist abuse, because let's face it, no one wants to talk about narcissists for the rest of their life. I actually do a lot of other things,
Yeah.
but I don't feel like this book is going to get out into the world until I don't like the word preaching, but I feel like people need to understand what it really is, like preachers do. And but I don't want to do that forever. I just want everyone to understand how to heal properly that has been through it. And then long term goal, I have other things like walking psychotherapy services. I really enjoy doing that because it overlaps with this. We store trauma in our bodies. Not the only trauma isn't narcissist abuse, it's also a lot of other things, right? We all get trauma. It could be loss of someone, losing your identity, or breakups in general are hard, divorce is hard, things that are our parents' generational trauma. Anyway, walking psychotherapy services is my long-term goal, to just launch and promote that. Maybe I'll come back and talk about that another time, but um, that's it.
Yes, good luck to your goals, Miss Gina. I'm looking forward for more
Amen.
success. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you?
Well, I don't know which you mean people that have recovered from narcissist abuse?
Yes, as
Okay.
a coach to empower women all over the world.
I think it's important that if you are trying to two things. If you're trying to be a coach because you would like to help spread the information you've gained or learned, really be specific in the area that you're trying to help people with and stick by it, because and not everyone is going to care or want to hear about it. I mean, it doesn't matter how good, like doing good you're trying to be, you're always going to have people saying, that's crazy, or everybody's talking about that, or whatever. But you have to have your voice, and you have to use your voice and just be clear on it. And then the other thing is, to recover from narcissist abuse, if you're a survivor like I am, it isn't about talking about the narcissist. And a lot of the social media, and I even in the beginning, when I started doing the self help takes, I talked so much about what they are. And now it's just saturated with information, right? And we can get stuck in there, and what we're doing is re-traumatizing ourselves by staying stuck in the anger, and ruminating about the narcissist. What we want to focus on is what's next for us. How are we going to thrive? That's what this book is about. Is about moving forward. I mean, maybe I should have said narcissist abuse thriver workbook, because it's about moving forward, and figuring out who are you and what do you want. You no longer have to want what that person wanted, and your view of yourself cannot be how they saw you, because that was warped and twisted, some sort of other reality. Now you're in your present day reality, and you need to be very clear on where you're headed. So when you see yourself spiraling and thinking about the past, you have to stop it. We can't control the automatic trauma response, but you stop it and you say, wait, stop. I am going to only speak positively about myself, and there's no space in this brain for that narcissist anymore. What do I want to think about? What am I trying to accomplish next? And it takes conditioning. It's kind of like running a marathon. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes, it's like 1 minute at a time, then 1 day at a time. And then before you know it, you're not really thinking about that narcissist much anymore, unless someone's asking you about them.
Well, thank you for that advice, Miss Gina. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
I'm sorry.
Can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
A book that I could recommend to influence my journey. Um, this might sound kind of hokey, but way before I guess before I was super aware of what narcissists were, there was that book called The Secret. Have you read it or heard about it?
No. What
It's
is all about?
it's about the power of putting out into the universe what you want. It's an oldie but goodie, The Secret. It's so very much positive thinking, mind body connection, um, brain resetting, and re-evaluating your life about what is next for you. Unfortunately, if somebody swoops in and does something like this, it's not, it will feel kind of like, okay, wait, where did that part of me go? So after you're surviving narcissist abuse, it might be good to read The Secret, actually, because it does, it gives you this sort of new reference point to kind of put yourself into a more solid, self-centered. That's the opposite of being with a narcissist, right? The narcissist is self-centered in a way that is hurting others. Yours is about being grounded so that you can like shine where you're supposed to shine and help and be, and you're not threatening anyone, you're not out to hurt anyone. It's just the secret is, and then you will find your path, because these guys or gals, they come in and they block your path, right? So you need
Hmm.
to say, okay, so I'm really glad I read that book a long time ago, because it does make an impression, and I think it will help survivors a lot too.
And thank you, Miss Gina, for that recommended book. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101, love letters, movie 101, music 101, our fourth season. Science 101, Sex 101 in Needs, second season of my baby podcast, Law 101, Mental Health 101, and Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Gina, what is the one thing you wish everyone understood about the nature of this relationship that would be help them for their daily lives?
Um, the nature of the relationship with a narcissist,
Yes.
that they will never change. You have to change.
Yes. You need to change. And Miss Gina Geller, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your books, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Thank you, Daniel. Sure. You can follow me on Instagram at Narcissist Abuse Survival Expert. You can find my books on Amazon, 25 Ways Narcissist Abuse Survival Workbook and The Women's Ultimate Divorce Survival Guide.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Gina Geller because if you support her for sure, more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Miss Gina, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, Daniel. I've enjoyed it.
Monica people, see you soon.